Hello and welcome to the Flightless Nerd Podcast, the show that gets you up to speed on all your nerdy needs. I am one of your hosts, Austin Bradford,
I am Doug Pilcher.
And I am Jeremiah Larnard.
and this is kind of episode one of the new phase of the Flightless Nerd Podcast. We are not going to be doing the 2 hour long marathons anymore.
Damn.
We are going to be switching it up and only talking about the news stories that catch our eye. We're going to do short little mini sessions. Big news that breaks. We're going to sit down. We're going to talk about it. We're going to push it out to the podcast waves. That could mean that you even get more content from us depending on the news week. Like we might do 5 episodes in a week if there's a lot of news. We might do 1 episode a week if it's a slow news week. So just kind of have to play it out and see, what kind of news there is to talk about. But
Austin, if you wanted to shorten the podcast, you could have just fired me.
I was trying to, but you would sue me. So we had to figure out a more creative way to go about this.
Fair.
But guys, I would say that this is the perfect time to do our short session news because
Day for it.
Yeah.
Very good day. Huge news coming out from Microsoft. They have now acquired Bethesda/ZeniMax for a ridiculous
For a lot
amount
of
of money.
Wasn't it
$7.5 billion. Wow.
It's a decent amount of money. It's
Wow.
more money than I could have paid for Bethesda.
It's more money than I would have paid for Bethesda.
I don't know about
but
that.
I guess we'll get into that in a minute. This is big news considering that as the time of recording this, and probably I think when this episode releases, pre-orders for the Xbox Series S and X start on Tuesday. So, I mean, beautiful time to announce this acquisition. It's got people excited for Xbox, and people are curious about what this means for the future of Bethesda and their huge titles like Elder Scrolls and the upcoming Starfield. Are they going to come to PS5? I mean, it's got people asking the question, so it's perfect time to announce it.
Well, here's what I have heard throughout the day, which is why I'm kind of glad we didn't record right as soon as this news dropped because more information has trickled out over the day. Basically, biggest news I think is all of the first party Bethesda games will be on Game Pass day one. So any Fallouts,
Console
any
and PC, right?
Yeah, any Fallouts, any Elder Scrolls, Starfield, if that's still being made, as my buddy Wes likes to say, he thinks it still is. I don't know about that. Also, probably stuff like Doom, because that is, id Software is part of Bethesda. They also said that they are looking at a case-by-case basis for which games will be exclusive, which games will be timed exclusives, and which games will just be games. Like a big one for a lot of people was ESO, Elder Scrolls Online.
Yeah.
Will still be on everything it's still on. So it'll still be on Stadia, it'll still be on PS5, and all that stuff. They're not just gonna be like, oh, guess what? We own it now. Can't be on PlayStation.
Games like that, they're not gonna roll back and be like, oh, we're gonna take this off of all these other consoles now that we own it.
Sure. Yeah, I think the bigger question is what's going to happen to future titles. One of the first things that popped in my head when the news broke was Deathloop is a Bethesda game that is exclusive for the PS5. And there's another one. I can't remember exactly what was the other one. It'll come to me in a second. But anyway, they did say that they're going to honor that exclusivity. Those are going to be exclusive to the PS5, at least timed exclusive. They'll probably come to the Series X eventually. But also, they've been being developed for the PlayStation only, so they couldn't just be like,
those
you're
deals
not
have already
releasing
been
it.
made.
Yeah, and it just wouldn't work just to be like, you have to put it on the Series X when they haven't been developing it for that. So, those are still coming to PS5. We'll see, after this, what that means for them.
It might not be too hard to develop a game that was quote unquote exclusive for PS5 to eventually run on an Xbox, just because nowadays consoles are more or less PCs in a box. They're portable, gaming computers that you plug into your TV at this point. So really the biggest difference between the two consoles is Microsoft is getting a little bit better power out of the GPU, and the SSD and the in the PS5 is a little bit better than Microsoft's proprietary stuff. So
right,
like,
but I'm sure it's not like clicking a button and then
well, yeah, I
runs on
know,
an
but
Xbox.
like it's not like trying to develop stuff for the PS3 versus the Xbox 360
Sure.
with a cell processor at this point either. So
yeah, so not quite as bad as that, but so those games will still be coming to PS5. There's a lot of talk out there about what does this mean for the big Bethesda titles, because Xbox has said they will consider releasing on other platforms on a case-by-case basis. I think that means that they're going to release the big titles like Elder Scrolls and Fallout on the PS5 as well. I don't see why you wouldn't. Those are going to sell crazy amounts of copies, and I don't think you want to leave those sales on the shelf just because you don't want to release on PlayStation, who I think is probably going to sell more units than Xbox, is my guess. So I don't think you'd want to lose millions and millions of dollars just to make it exclusive to Xbox and PC. So I would expect to see those come out to PlayStation 5. Worst case scenario, they'd be a timed exclusive that would show up later.
yeah, like that's kind of what I'm seeing is timed exclusivity for big games at this point. It's like, hey, you can play this game day one on Xbox Game Pass, or you can play it in like a month on PlayStation.
And maybe they'll start coming out with like new IP that would be Xbox exclusive. I could see that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, these big titles that have had huge fan bases across all kinds of consoles and generations, yeah, they can't just keep that on one system anymore without making a lot of people very angry and losing a lot of money.
True. It's very true. I mean, like, when do businesses care about making customers angry or not, when it comes to making a lot of money?
Sure.
But
yeah.
Right, but they can make money.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. And I don't think, like, if like they are completely okay with the big name games being like non-exclusive, like it's like, yeah, these are Microsoft technically owned games coming to the PlayStation, then that means that Microsoft is being true to its word when it says we're not in competition with Sony anymore. We're in competition with like streaming services now. So
right.
I mean, that's a big step if they go, yeah, our Microsoft published games are going to be on Sony now. Like,
this is huge deal though.
Yeah.
I think this is one of the biggest acquisitions I've ever seen and biggest swings I've seen being taken towards a video game company. Bethesda did not need Microsoft, in my opinion, unless they were struggling internally. And Jason Schreier will probably come out with an article about this in the future. But they just really didn't need it. They were their own publisher. They were doing just fine. It's interesting to me that they sold to Microsoft. It's impossible to guess the real reasons why behind it, but
because they gave them a lot of money.
Wanted the capital, yes. But it would be hard. I can imagine it being hard to, even for whatever, $1 billion, $5.7 billion, giving away control of some of your properties like that. That's going to be hard because I know Elder Scrolls and Fallout are their babies, so
yeah,
I don't think Microsoft will like step on their toes. I think they're going to trust Bethesda to make the game, but good move by Microsoft.
Very smart move by Microsoft because we've been talking about this for months and months. Like, we're all PlayStation people. We're all planning on getting the PlayStation, and like I wasn't even really considering the Xbox much until today when they said, "Oh, we're buying Bethesda." I was like, "Oh, well, maybe I need an Xbox."
Right, because if Elder Scrolls 6 is exclusive to Xbox for even like 6 months, I'm buying a Series S for $300 so I can play it. Like,
Elder Scrolls
it's a no-brainer.
Is 100% a console seller. Like, just like Fallout is 100%. Doom is a console seller. Like if somebody's like, I want to play these games because they're amazing. Bugs and all. Hell, maybe even Microsoft will like that. That might be a time where I'm okay with Microsoft kind of cracking the whip, is just being like, hey, fix your fucking engine.
Right.
Well, they did say, I saw a tweet from Wario64 that Bethesda is doing the biggest overhaul of their engine since Oblivion. So
Since Elder Scrolls
Have they
1.
done an overhaul since Oblivion? Hasn't it just been the same thing?
well,
like,
the
entire
Oblivion.
time?
So
yeah.
so the overhaul from Morrowind to Oblivion,
Oh,
like
gotcha.
it's on scale to that.
So they're building a new engine, is what they're
Essentially.
saying. Yeah,
Yeah.
like because that's basically what they did for the,
Right.
Like I think they had like 10% of the old engine in the new engine. Like when they
Apparently, yeah. Apparently, they're updating the engine, so
Well, that's
we'll
good.
see what that looks like.
Good. That's what it needed.
Yeah.
I mean, it
So.
needed that after Oblivion.
Yeah.
Like that's...
I got away with Skyrim, but when like Fallout 4 was the same as Skyrim, it's like okay.
Well, I mean, really, honestly, they probably would have gotten away with just keeping everything the same and never changing anything if it wasn't for two things. If it wasn't for Fallout 76 being as bad as it was at launch, which I've heard it's gotten better. I haven't jumped in yet, but it's on Game Pass. So I mean, that's something I can jump into and check out.
It's
but
on
also,
Game Pass, and you still haven't jumped into it.
yeah, like, well, I'm playing Zelda. Damn it! They also Outer Worlds would be number 2. Like Outer Worlds came out, it was the same game. I mean, it is Fallout in space, and it ran smoothly. And like Obsidian was just like, haha, we can do it better than Bethesda. So like, if they didn't come out with that game, Bethesda probably could have skated by. That the Fallout 6 debacle. Like Bethesda probably could have skated by, like not really doing anything to the engine. And I don't think anybody would have raised as much of a like people would have started making a fuss eventually, but not as much as they already have.
Yeah. Good job, Microsoft. That's really all I have to say.
Congrats.
There's still not a lot that's driving me to want to like pre-order the Xbox or like buy it at launch, but definitely down the road I'll be looking for it.
But I mean, having that console at such a reasonable price, at least the Series S, like $300, like I'm gonna buy one eventually. Not right away, but eventually it's gonna get in my home.
If like Game Pass on PC is the same as console, which fingers crossed, I'm hoping they kind of do that once like they get out of the beta for PC. I don't need it, but like if it stays different, like there have been a few games come out on the console version of Game Pass that haven't come out on PC, and I'm just like, I want to play those games. I want that. So like if they keep doing that, especially with Bethesda stuff, if they keep it console exclusive for a while, then like I might have an Xbox S in my house, like even with all the PC stuff and PlayStation 5. Like it just is what it is. Like, I mean, I never thought I would say that. And here's Microsoft wheeling and dealing to maybe get another sale out of somebody who just didn't think he was ever going to buy an Xbox.
Right.
You think they're going to get their $7.5 billion back from converting people who weren't going to buy an Xbox?
Maybe not this generation, but the one after. We'll see.
We'll see how much the Xbox Series X.
See how good Elder Scrolls 6 is.
Do you think? I mean, like
on the Xbox Series Y.
Yeah.
Well, here's what I think.
YS.
Here's what I think Xbox is going to do. Xbox is with that 2-year subscription thing where it's like, oh, you pay off your Xbox Series S in 2 years.
I'm considering that.
I think they're going to release an updated console that will be like, also cheap, but maybe almost as powerful as an Xbox Series X. And they will do like every 2 years, like just to kind of keep the subscription rolling. They're going to update the console. PlayStation might not do that. PlayStation might still just be like, we might do like a more powerful one that does like better frame rate.
They'll release a Pro for sure halfway through the generation.
It really just depends on how big like technology leaps in, because they're pretty caught up with.
I mean, in 4 years they're going to be wanting to push 8K pretty hard. So
you think?
Oh yeah, 4 years.
Okay,
for sure. 4K was barely a thing 4 years ago.
True.
Yeah, I mean they'll just be starting to push 8K at that point. But
I mean,
for sure.
We'll see. It's going to be interesting. This acquisition, like Austin said, this is one of the biggest acquisitions in at least a decade, maybe 2. I can't really think. Like, all I can think of when I think of really big acquisitions like this is like Square picking up, Enix picking up SquareSoft and becoming Square Enix. That was huge back in the day.
Yeah.
But or Madden getting NFL exclusivity.
But like Bethesda had its own E3 conference.
Yeah,
like
totally.
That's insane for someone big enough to have their own E3 conference to be picked up by Microsoft.
Yeah, and like I said earlier today
anybody.
on the Discord, it would be like if Sony picked up Square Enix, or if Sony picked up like EA,
Capcom.
something.
Something.
Yeah, Capcom. Like that would be like, which could be a possibility. I mean, hell, Street Fighter V was like basically funded by Sony, just so that game could be a thing.
Do you think they'll try and match him? You think they'll try and pick up another big publisher?
I don't think they need to. I mean, I think they're always looking for.
Microsoft didn't need to.
I don't know, because like we weren't talking about Microsoft like this before today.
That's fair.
So maybe.
Well, Microsoft has picked up a few big, studios already. Like let's not. I mean, they did last generation too. Like Rare. Like Rare was huge for Microsoft. But like nothing is as big as Bethesda right now. So it's just like, wow, this came out of nowhere. No one knew, like no one was even talking about it until it happened. Usually like when acquisitions like this are in the process of, we know about it months beforehand. But this time it was just like, nope, it's here. It's done. Like it happened. It's like, holy hell. So I think we're just taken aback by it. But this is pretty on par for Microsoft. It's just they went for a big fish this time. So
you're right. Yeah,
Landed.
it is. It's they're on a roll, especially when they picked up Rare. Speaking of Rare, let's go play some Sea of Thieves. Let's sign this off here.
Okay.
Thank you for listening to this new form of the Flightless Nerd podcast. We're really excited to bring you some like really in-depth conversation about the big news of the week. So thank you for tuning in, and I hope you like it. Make sure that you subscribe on whatever podcast listener you're on. Leave us a review. That helps us get discovered by people who are looking for podcasts similar to this one.
YouTube.
If you have any YouTube, yes. We're going to be on YouTube. All of these episodes will be on YouTube. So just go to YouTube, search Flightless Nerd. We should be the first one that pops up. Just click on that if you want to watch those videos. If you have any questions or want to ask us anything, you can email us at podcast@flightlessnerd.com. We also have a Patreon. Head over to patreon.com/flightlessnerd. Throw us a couple of bucks a month. Greatly appreciated. It helps us keep all of this ad-free. Follow us on Twitter. The show is at Flightless News. You can also follow us individually. I am at The Lost Cause Kid.
I am at DA Pilcher.
And I am at Rio Omega 33.
And make sure if you want to catch more content from us that you head over to twitch.tv/flightless_nerd. A lot of the content's moving over to that platform. We're going to be playing games and just kind of chatting with the community over there. And we also have a Discord if you want to go to the show notes and click the link for that. We will be chatting in there as well. So thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Flightless Nerd podcast. We will catch you next time.